Ukraine was attacked, killing over 30 innocent people. Each news report of an apartment building destroyed or hospital damaged is another painful blow. What we are witnessing is nothing less than a criminal aggression. And it's essential that Russia is held fully accountable. And for that reason, justice for Ukraine will continue to be a cornerstone of Dutch support. And it's absolutely clear that this criminal aggression by Russia must be brought to a halt as soon as possible. The killing has to stop. So we must keep up pressure on Russia, for example, by opposing additional sanctions. And we must keep doing all we can do to support Ukraine, so it can defend itself against continued attacks on the front line and in the air. Since 2022, the Netherlands has committed €20.6 billion to support for Ukraine, of which €13.6 billion is military support. One way we've done this is by signing up to the new US initiative, where NATO countries will source military support packages for Ukraine from US stockpiles. And the Netherlands, as you mentioned, Vladimir, was like one of the first countries a few weeks ago to get on board with a €500 million package. And others have followed, but we are asking our allies, all our allies, to sign up too, because your country needs it. We're also boosting our cooperation in other ways. For example, the Netherlands and Ukraine have agreed to collaborate on the production of drones that can be deployed here. And of course, we continue our military support such as equipment, air defense and F-16 aircraft, financial contributions for ammunition procurement and the cooperation arising from our bilateral security agreement. Together with our financial and legal contributions, this shows that the Netherlands is doing all it can to support Ukraine and with deeds as well as with words. In that spirit, we are announcing today that the Netherlands will contribute 55 million to the World Bank, euros to the World Bank, Ukraine relief recovery, reconstruction and reform, in order to help your country to recover and rebuild. Because your fight is our fight, and the future of Ukraine is the future of Europe. In recent weeks, we have seen all too clearly that the Russian threat is not limited to the Ukraine. Other European countries have to deal with Russian drones and fighter aircraft violating their airspace. And for some time now, we have been confronted with a range of hybrid threats. No one in Europe can claim that Russian aggression is not our problem, or that the war here is purely a fight between Ukraine and Russia. It's a shared struggle in which we are supporting each other. Ukraine has offered to help European countries with anti-drone measures, for example. And that's extremely valuable, given your country's experience and expertise, unfortunately, in these areas. This shows that we have an unbreakable bond, that we stand shoulder to shoulder, and that we share the same unshakable will to be able to live in peace and freedom. Thank you. Slava Ukraine.
Героям слава.
Героям слава. Шановні колеги, у вас є можливість поставити запитання. Перше, будь ласка, ми Україна.
Дякую за можливість, пане президенте. Перше питання до вас. Чи можете ви підтвердити, що українські фламінго вже вражають російські цілі на території Росії? І у контексті цього ви зазначали сьогодні, що на наступний рік ми маємо спроможність у 35 мільярдів виготовляти зброї. Це ракети, балістичні крилаті, дрони. А наскільки покрита оця наша спроможність фінансами, так? І чи розраховуєте ви, що ми будемо виготовляти зброю?
So we're just watching here as Ukrainian President Zelensky, they're welcoming the Dutch Prime Minister to Kyiv. As you can see, the Dutch Prime Minister did make his remarks in English, but now some questions are being asked in Ukrainian, and I don't believe that there is a translation to that. I want to take us out to this social media post by the Ukrainian president, though, talking about this visit as a whole, where he says this, quote, "The Netherlands is one of the most principled defenders of life, a nation that truly supports our defense, our resilience, and importantly, our work to achieve justice. Today, the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, Mr. Schoof, is in Ukraine, and I'm grateful for the consistent attention and support for Ukraine. We discussed many pressing issues. Above all, our focus was on Ukraine's defense and military projects, pressure on the Russian Federation, and ensuring accountability for its crimes, political cooperation, and support for our people and energy challenges. I am thankful to the Netherlands for their continued readiness to stand with Ukraine and all Europeans in defending our shared values and our lives. And this comes as we are following everything having to do with that war between Russia and Ukraine, as we see all of these international partners continuing to show their support. But I want to take us out to some video from over the weekend. Take a look at this as we follow this latest attack by Russia on Ukraine. So Russia did launch drones, missiles, and guided aerial bombs across Ukraine early Sunday, killing 5 people in a major nighttime attack. The Ukrainian officials said targeted civilian infrastructure. Moscow fired 53 ballistic and cruise missiles and 496 drones, Ukraine's Air Force said. President Zelensky reported that 9 regions were targeted. 4 people, including a 15-year-old, died in a combined drone and missile strike on Lviv, according to regional officials and Ukraine's emergency service. It was the largest aerial assault on the historic western city and surrounding region since Russia's full-scale invasion on February 24th, of 2022. In a Telegram post, Russia, they're launching more than 140 Shahed drones and 23 ballistic missiles across the region. At least 6 more people were injured, according to a statement by Ukraine's police force. And this is just some of the footage that we have there from the aftermath as cleanup does continue. That war between Russia and Ukraine still much in effect, as we saw that President Zelensky is meeting with the Dutch Prime Minister to talk about their partnership going forward. We're going to step away for a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more of your top stories next.
¿Gané?
¡Felicidades! ¡Ganaste! ¡Sí, ganaste! Es real. Créeme, el Monopoly Game volvió a McDonald's. Bienvenido al mundo de los ganadores. Despega y juega para tener la oportunidad de ganar. Podrías ganarte un Jeep Grand Cherokee 2026. Comida gratis, una TV, esto y estos. ¡Hay hasta $1,000,000! ¡Wow! Juega en el app de McDonald's y ve por lo tuyo. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
You've had Taste Made in the palm of your hand. Now we're in your home, where the struggle becomes your victory.
Where style meets flavor. Wherever you need to be.
Where we bring the smoke and the fire.
Taste Made is streaming in all the places good taste matters.
It's pretty frickin' delicious.
Where we always pay the exceptional, the unexpected.
Where the reward is sweeter.
Now we're everywhere you need to be. Taste Made.
Tonight we got a real big show.
Ed Sullivan gave us the longest-running primetime variety show in television history. For 23 years, the show offered something for everybody.
The Beatles.
Featuring legendary music acts.
Here is Elvis Presley.
Classic comedians.
Oh, Twiggy, get me an olive.
And so much more. Watch The Ed Sullivan Show now on the Roku channel.
You were all chosen because you are enough. You made it.
I see so much raw potential.
This is your moment.
There is nothing else like being a WWE superstar.
Touching on some more of the top stories here in the United States as we take a live look, not a live look, but a look at a post from California Governor Gavin Newsom here. He says this breaking, we just won in court again. A federal judge blocked Donald Trump's unlawful attempt to deploy 300 of our National Guard troops to Portland. The court guaranteed our request for a temporary restraining order, halting any federalization, relocation, or deployment of any Guard members to Oregon from any state. Trump's abuse of power won't stand. And this comes from some breaking news that we brought to you from over the weekend. Let's take a look at some of this footage here on your screen. So we have reported that a federal judge late Sunday temporarily blocking the Trump administration from deploying any National Guard units to Oregon at all. after a legal whirlwind that began hours earlier when the president mobilized California troops for Portland after the same judge blocked him from using Oregon's National Guard the day before. During a hastily called evening telephone hearing, the U.S. district judge in charge granted a temporary restraining order sought by California and Oregon. We're taking a look here on your screen at some of the footage from a protest that were happening over the last several days. And this, I do believe, was just outside of a federal ICE facility. And this is also some footage of President Trump just yesterday at a Navy event. But going back to this, the judge who was appointed by President Trump in his first term seemed incredulous that the president moved to send National Guard troops to Oregon from neighboring California and then from Texas on Sunday, just hours after she had ruled the first time. We did also hear late Sunday night from some officials down there, including the Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield, Governor Tina Kotek, and the Portland Mayor Keith Wilson. They held a virtual news conference after the president had announced that he would send the California National Guard members. Let's listen in.
Incredibly hard. And as this press conference is going on right now, we are working to amend our complaint in federal district court to add California as a complainant and file our second temporary restraining order to pause the actions of the President of the United States. What was unlawful yesterday is unlawful today. What was unlawful with the Oregon National Guard is unlawful with the California National Guard. The judge's order was not some minor procedural point for the president to work around like my 14-year-old does when he doesn't like my answers. We need leadership in this country that understands the power of bringing people together to solve our greatest challenges. But the president, right now, is persistent on acting like a door-to-door salesman and doesn't understand that when the court says no, the court means no, and that is not an invocation for negotiation. The state of Oregon will absolutely not be a party to the president's attempt to normalize the use of the United States military in our American cities. All of us care about public safety, but you do that by working in partnership, and you do that by working in collaboration. And we do not use our United States military as a tool in political theater. Right now, California will be added to the complaint, and a temporary restraining order will be filed here shortly. Those will become public very shortly. Our intent is to get in front of the judge again as quickly as possible, hopefully as soon as tomorrow, to provide clarification to the federal government that it doesn't matter whether you use the California National Guard or the Oregon National Guard. It is unlawful. The judge was incredibly clear that Portland, Oregon does not need the military to effectuate its safety. Finally, we ask, as this case continues to progress through the court systems, that everybody remains peaceful as they exercise their right to be heard in this process. With that, I will go ahead and turn this over to the governor.
Thank you, Attorney General Rayfield. Here we go. Thank you, Attorney General Rayfield, for your great work and your whole team at the Department of Justice. So, as the Attorney General mentioned last night, I received intelligence that 101 federalized California National Guard members arrived in Oregon by plane and were then sent to Camp Withicum. That's the facility operated by the Oregon Military Department. It is our understanding that there are an additional 99 California Guard members en route today. So assuming a total of 200 service members from the California National Guard will shortly completely be in the state of Oregon. However, my office has received no official notification or correspondence from the federal government regarding this action by the president. This action appears to be intentional to circumvent yesterday's ruling by a federal judge. This afternoon, I sent a message to Northern Command directing them to obey the October 4th court ruling from yesterday and take no further action regarding deploying troops in Oregon. I also directed that those troops that will be at Camp Withicum should be restricted to that facility, and that the California National Guard troops should be sent home as soon as possible. And I also want to say, as for our Oregon National Guard members, many of whom are still waiting at Camp Rylea, they are pawns in this situation, political pawns in this situation. And I would like to send our troops home to their families, to their jobs. But the United States government has filed a stay in the Ninth Circuit, as the Attorney General has mentioned. Attorney General is taking the lead to oppose that, and we're going to wait to hear how that concludes, maybe as early as tomorrow. It's important to remember that our Oregon National Guard members who are our neighbors have full-time jobs in our communities across Oregon. I want to make sure that they are safe. I would like to get them home to their families as soon as possible. We are waiting, however, on the action of the court. The facts on the ground in Oregon haven't changed. There's no need for military intervention in Oregon. There's no insurrection in Portland. There's no threat to national security. Oregon is our home. It is not a military target. And Oregonians exercising their freedom of speech against unlawful actions by the Trump administration is their right and should be done so peacefully. I'm going to continue with my colleagues here to continue to keep the public apprised of what the situation is. And end of the day, I'm going to continue to uphold the law and the right to govern ourselves as Oregonians. With that, Mayor Keith Wilson.
Good afternoon. I want to begin by thanking Governor Kotek and Attorney General Rayfield for standing with Portland and defending our shared values. I also want to recognize our state and city legal teams whose steadfast commitment to upholding the law has been essential throughout this process. Yesterday, a federal judge blocked the mobilization of Oregon National Guard troops, ruling the federal seizure unlawful and unjustified. The decision reaffirmed what we've long maintained. The federal government overstepped its authority. As the judge noted, we presented substantial evidence that the protests at the Portland ICE facility were neither significantly violent nor disruptive in the days and weeks leading up to the president's directive on September 27. Despite the court's ruling, the federal government has activated California National Guard personnel under Title 10 to operate in Portland. This action circumvents the judge's decision and threatens to inflame a community that has remained peaceful. This is yet another unnecessary and inflammatory attempt by the president to deploy outside troops in Portland where no intervention is warranted. Our legal team is actively coordinating with our partners to pursue every lawful avenue to enforce the judge's order and protect Portlanders' rights. We will use every tool at our disposal to defend the Constitution and safeguard the rights of every resident. Portland remains firmly committed to protecting the right to protest, ensuring public safety, and I've said from the beginning, the number of federal troops needed or wanted in our city is 0. This is the latest move, and it is a clear example of a federal government undermining local governance, escalating conflict, and diverting attention from the real needs of our communities. I urge federal leadership to respect the court's judgment and immediately suspend any deployments that defy it. Portland will continue to defend the rule of law and the rights of our residents. Thank you.
We will now open it to questions. So if you would like to ask a question, please use the raise hand function and share your full name and the outlet you are with. First up, I see Lisa Balick.
Yes, thank you. It's Lisa Balick, reporter at Coin Channel 6. Question for you, Governor, perhaps the mayor as well. If the California National Guard deploys outside ICE tonight, is there any action you can take to make them leave?
We have, Lisa, thank you for the question. We have no information about their whereabouts or whether or not they will actually be at the ICE facility tonight. My message to Northern Command is that those troops should stay at Camp Withicum and be prepared to return back to California. I believe that the court order still applies to them. Of course, we will know more pending the discussion at the Ninth Circuit, and with the local judge as well, saying this should have been assumed as well. But hopefully, we'll have more information tomorrow on that.
But there's no action you can take to make them leave if they appear?
Not legally at the moment, no.
The next question, Antonio Sanchez.
Hey there, I'm Antonio Sanchez. I'm with Noticias Noroeste, as the only Spanish language newscast in Oregon, the immigrant community has expressed to us they feel caught in the crossfire. They feel these protesters are making things worse for them. They're not helping their cause, they say. How do we make them understand their tactics are affecting the immigrant community more so than helping as to what they believe? And also, do we expect these guardsmen to enforce immigration laws?
Thank you for the question. We have no information with regard to what the mission is for the California National Guard members, so I have no answer to that question. And I also want to say that the fear and anxiety in the immigrant community is substantial, and all of us on this call recognize that. And I believe there should be a way for us to all peacefully demonstrate our values, contrary to what the Trump administration is doing around a whole host of issues, including immigration enforcement. But our message, my message is, let's be peaceful. Let's maintain our right to free speech, but not create a situation that is unlawful, because people will be held accountable if that happens.
Support what the governor said. In America, we don't use our military to enforce the laws of our states, and we don't use the military to enforce the laws of the United States. And that is why you have the Posse Comitatus Act, which actually prevents them from doing so under those circumstances. So I would not expect, and I would hope, that the president would not choose to order his troops to violate the Posse Comitatus Act. If that did happen, we would again be back in front of the court, and we'll be monitoring to make sure that they are following the law here in Oregon and the laws of this country.
Next, we have Alex Baumhart.
Hey, y'all. Alex from the Oregon Capitol Chronicle. Excuse me. I'm wondering, Mayor Wilson, you might be the best to answer this. Last night, the federal agents at the ICE facility pushed way further into the city property than they had before. They used way more chemical munitions, arguably on far fewer people than had been there even a week ago. It was dispiriting to hear the Portland Police Bureau on bikes around the corner say, we can't do anything, and that we had a PIO at PPB say, we have not discussed jurisdiction with the federal officers, i.e., why did they do nothing when the feds pushed a full block down the street? Is there anything that you can tell the public about what PPB can and cannot do when it comes to public safety, especially when they're being antagonized by federal officers with chemical munitions and guns?
Yeah, we saw events last night that went far beyond the pale of what we've seen in the past. We see Federal Protective Service that's really trying to inflame the situation, not put it down, and certainly not just protect property. A couple of things. We saw unjustified uses of force. We saw shoving peaceful veterans and elderly people to the ground, indiscriminate use of impact munitions to disperse an otherwise peaceful crowd, indiscriminately discharging pepper spray. We saw a sniper on the roof of the ICE facility. This is not what we typically look at in crowd control or peaceful protests. This is an aggressive approach trying to inflame a situation that has otherwise been peaceful. As far as tactics and our processes, those things I just read to you are items that we're lodging with the Civil Rights Department for the Department of Justice. We are reaching out to them, explaining to them we need them to follow their code of conduct, including integrity and honor. And we're expecting them to operate with a high degree of standards and operations that our Portland Police Bureau has and will continue to do. As far as direct control over that, we don't have direct control over the FPS, but we can explain that we need them to operate with the same sort of high-performing organization that we're trying to show to the city as well.
And Alex, I would just add, they would follow state law. We've worked really hard in the state of Oregon from 2020 on to have better crowd control techniques. There are clear laws of when you can be using tear gas, for example. We're not following any of those. We're also hearing that they're having social media influencers on the rooftop filming. They are clearly trying to antagonize the crowds. They are antagonizing folks who are there to lawfully demonstrate. And That's got to stop. I think they're creating a public health emergency with the use of the tear gas near residential areas, completely outside of state law. And I appreciate that the mayor is going to pursue whatever avenues we have for them to, get back in line with what is practice here in the state of Oregon.
We're listening in to officials down there in Oregon. They were talking just last night as they continue to fight against President Trump's plan to deploy National Guard troops to Oregon. We're going to step away for a quick commercial break, but we'll continue with more of these comments next.
Would you buy a life insurance policy if you knew your rate increased every 5 years? What if $9.95 a month bought you less than $1,000 in protection? Sadly, many policies that seniors buy today fail to mention this in their advertisements. You could buy a policy that might not give you enough coverage when you need it the most. Call now to receive free information on the Senior Care Plan from Senior Life Insurance Company. The Senior Care Plan guarantees your rates cannot increase, your benefit will never decrease, there's no medical exam, and you will have lifetime coverage. You could qualify for up to $30,000 in whole life protection. With the Senior Care Plan, your coverage can start immediately, unlike other policies that don't give you full coverage for 2 years. By calling now, you'll lock in the lowest rate possible. Call now for your free information on the Senior Care Plan from Senior Life. You have no obligation. Call now.
When you have an intellectual disability, simple things like getting a job and being part of a team can be tough. But with an organization like Best Buddies by your side, anything's possible.
Join our movement. On October 11th and 12th, Jersey Mike's is donating 20% of sales to Best Buddies.
So come and support the inclusion of people like me.
Your destination for gripping true crime. From cold cases to notorious murder investigations.
We knew right away that something was amiss, something was wrong.
This is Real Crime. Watch now on Roku.
You've had taste made in the palm of your hand. Now we're in your home, where the struggle becomes your victory.
It's pretty freaking delicious.
Now we're everywhere you need to be, where taste is made. Taste Made.
8:36 on the East Coast, 5:36 over on the West Coast. And the West Coast is where we're staying as we continue to listen in to some more from officials down in Oregon. They are continuing to fight back against President Trump and his plans to deploy National Guard troops.
What they've done.
I wouldn't say you can expect it, but we are certainly sending them notices to what we're seeing. You know, the key point here, and the point I spoke to the chief and several other individuals in a meeting today, is that criminal activity is criminal activity. Excessive force, no matter who you are, nobody's immune. The Portland Police is not immune. The Federal Protective Services, ATF, Customs Border Patrol. If we see the law being broken, we're going to lodge the complaint. And if a complaint and or somebody does file it, we will support that. There's no one immune. And I just want to make sure that the federal government knows that they are not immune from the criminal laws. Nobody's above the law.
All right, the next question, Hillary Borid.
Hi, Governor, at this point, are you in control of the Oregon National Guard fully again?
Well, my understanding, thank you for the question, Hillary, under the court ruling yesterday with the temporary restraining order, technically, yes, the Oregon National Guard is under my command. I didn't have complete information until this morning, but now with the action by the federal government to challenge that temporary restraining order, I am on hold to see how that plays out. My goal is to get them back to their homes and their jobs as soon as possible.
Next, we have Jack Brook.
Hi, yes, Jack Brook with AP. Just wanted to clarify on the number of National Guard being sent to Oregon. We've heard 300 from Governor Newsom, and the Pentagon said 200. Could you clarify?
Well, again, I have no official notice. This is only based on intel that we have received. My understanding is with the second group of California National Guard members coming, we'll be at 200. I'm not sure where the 300 came from, only that they are still, there were, as of yesterday, 300 federalized California National Guard, 200 of which are now being sent to Oregon.
Thank you.
Next hand is Amanda Arden.
Yeah, thank you. This is Amanda Arden with CBS News. First question, I heard last week with the federalization of the Oregon National Guard that the 200 would be identified and then they'd have 3 to 5 days of training before they were deployed to Portland. Is that timing similar with these National Guard members from California, or will this process move faster since they're already federalized?
It could move faster. Again, no specific mission information other than they are federalized and probably have received some training. So they've been on the ground in California for several months now. So perhaps they will be in a different timeline. However, we're in the court tomorrow. Hopefully what the court said yesterday will stay tomorrow. So we'll see what happens.
All right, next question is from John Adams.
Hi, John Adams, KGW News in Portland. For Attorney General Rayfield, just again, can kind of walk us through the timeline of what we might see when this goes before a judge tomorrow. If we do happen to see California National Guard troops maybe around the ICE facility in Portland tonight, what then happens when this goes before a judge tomorrow? If the judge rules in the state of Oregon's favor, would they then have to pull back?
Yeah, and let's walk back from starting yesterday. So at 4:30, we get the ruling that effectively puts the National Guard back under the governor's control, ruling that the president did not have the authority to federalize the National Guard. Shortly thereafter, we did get notice that the federal government was going to seek a stay of that ruling, which effectively would pause the lower court's ruling. Today, they made the formal application to do so. Within roughly a half an hour, the Oregon Department of Justice, around 2:30 today, filed a response to that saying that they are not entitled to a stay of the order. And again, this is focusing specifically on the Oregon National Guard. That is one element of this case. That we hope to have, and the federal government is asked to get a ruling by tomorrow on that motion, and the hope is that we'll have a little bit of finality on that within the next 24 hours for the governor so that she can operate as she needs to for the state. The second component of this is on the California National Guard. And again, that was yesterday evening. Governor receives notice. We receive notice. Our lawyers and staff get to work to making sure that we file a second temporary restraining order today. And that also added California to the complaint to do so because it was the California National Guard. Separate judge, not the Ninth Circuit, but Judge Emmergood, again, we're seeking to get in front of her tomorrow as well to get clarification on that. Now, just like the initial complaint that was filed, it took roughly a week to get a response. So it's going to be up to the judge, how much information, research she needs to be able to make an informed ruling before she rules on that. The hope, again, and what we've tried to operate here in Oregon with the governor and the mayor's partnership is that we wanted to be as quick as possible, in the courts as quick as possible, before people were deployed on the ground. Now, we can only move as fast as we can move. The president is trying to out-hustle us in this process. And so we're trying, again, to get in front of a court to prevent this because we truly believe, all of us, that the presence of the United States military in Portland is only going to serve to inflame the situation.
All right, next, Alex Baumhart again.
Yeah, obviously, like, we're towing into territory that's way beyond constitutional law, and I'm wondering, sort of as a larger dragnet with other maybe Democratic leaders in other states or even Republicans at this point, can you give us a sense of the conversations you're having more broadly nationally about this particular time and temperature and what all of this means? This is obviously far greater than an Oregon problem.
Well, we're
I
in a
don't know
very
if you want to
difficult
talk.
moment. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Patricia.
Yeah, and I think we all have different lanes that we operate in. It's been very interesting to talk with the governor, to talk with the mayor about some of the conversations that we're having at the different levels of government. So I'll talk about it from being amongst Democratic attorneys general and our conversations across the state. I think there's some pretty significant patterns that this president is manifesting. You first saw it attacking the independent judiciary. He attacked his own appointed judge yesterday when he got the ruling. He picks the referees to the game and then he starts complaining about the game. So he has a problem with the independent judiciary. That is a hallmark of our democracy. He starts attacking the press and applying pressure to the free press in our country, another pillar of our democracy. He's outwardly talking about rigging our elections through gerrymandering to maintain control in Congress because he's so fearful of the midterm elections. And now he is normalizing the use of the military across our country in multiple states. And again, just yesterday, he's mobilizing in Illinois. And so as attorneys general, these are things that we're actively talking about, actively preparing. There's a reason we were able to get into court so darn fast on this. That's because we were prepared. That's because we knew that at some point this president had been talking about this and was going to be ready. The governor had been in partnership with us and we had been in close collaboration. And so that was really what allowed us to be ready for this moment. I do expect further pressure points as they stretch the bounds of our democracy will continue throughout the next 3 years. But I think it's important and incumbent upon all of us to realize that we just can't become complacent as these attacks to our democracy continue to happen. We cannot be the frog in boiling water. And that's why these cases are so darn important that we stand up for these foundational issues.
I agree with everything that the Attorney General just said. You know, I've been speaking to other governors. I was on the phone this morning with Governor Pritzker. I've been communicating with Governor Newsom. We are all concerned what the role of governors are, what their role is in commanders-in-chief for the National Guard. But let's go to earlier last week when the President of the United States spoke to hundreds of generals saying that we need to be able to training our military in the streets of American cities. We cannot normalize the approach he is taking with the military in our own country. It's not warranted. It is unlawful. It is un-American. Local law enforcement has a duty and a responsibility and the skills to manage their local situation. This is a states' rights issue. This is a democratic institution issue. And I think we have to take our president at face value when he says, he believes this is necessary, and Oregonians adamantly disagree.
All right, we've got 3 more hands, and these will be our final questions. So Anna Griffin, first you.
Hi, folks. This is Anna Griffin with the New York Times. On that point of the president taking him at face value, his depiction of what is going on in Portland is very different than what those of us here are seeing. Do you have a sense of where he is getting his information? And have Portland police out there seen the government doing its own taping?
Legally, I can tell you one of the most compelling things as you listen into the court hearings is when attorneys for the federal government talk to a federal judge and cite Truth Social as facts in a courtroom. I think you have this opinion, and I think that we've all formed this opinion of our president, where he gathers his facts off of social media gossip, social media batter, social media chat, and that is how he is seeing the world. And I think the governor can talk to, she had conversations about the reality on the ground. And that's why the court was so darn important, is that we could present real facts to a neutral arbiter about what is going on the ground. And it doesn't have to become politicized in these social media channels. But that's honestly where we see him, kind of trying to gather his facts.
Well, we know the facts are different on the ground. And what you saw, and they failed to make their case on Friday that there was an actual problem that warranted this. And truth and facts do have to matter here. And it is, I kind of don't even care at this point where he's getting his information because he is intentionally disregarding the facts on the ground from the people who know what is happening, from the mayor to myself, to the attorney general, to the chief of police, who talks about any protests or demonstrations are confined to a 1-block radius in the city of Portland. There is no connection between the truth and what the president is saying in terms of what is happening on the ground in Portland.
Jessica Levinson.
Hi, I am a legal contributor for CBS News and a law professor. And I was hoping you could talk to me about your specific response to what I think will be the Trump administration's argument that once they federalize the National Guard in one state, then that National Guard is essentially under their chain of command and they can decide to send it to another state. Or related to that, essentially, what's the best, if there are any cases to support the idea that if a district court judge says, you don't.
We're continuing to listen and hear to Oregon officials. This was last night on a Sunday. They're talking about some of the steps that they're taking to fight against President Trump deploying National Guard troops there to the state. Now, we do know that late last night, a judge did issue another temporary order blocking that move. And of course, we'll continue to follow all of these developments throughout the day today. But we're now heading to Washington, D.C. and taking a live look there at the Capitol building in our nation's capital. Today does mark day 6 as the government shutdown continues with no end in sight. And the Senate is expected to vote again today on the same plan that lawmakers blocked before. Joining us now down there live is Fox 5's Melanie Alnwick with the latest. Melanie.
Hey, good morning. So initially, Senate Majority Leader John Thune said that he would continue to have votes through the weekend. And then he reversed course and said he wanted Democrats to go home for the weekend, talk to their constituents, and really think about what they want to do when they come back in session today. But at least from what we're hearing on all of the talk shows and the public talking points, it does not sound like anyone's positions have changed. Democrats still holding firm that they want protections for Medicaid and Affordable Care Act premium subsidies, as well as assurances that President Trump won't pull money out of federal agencies after their budgets have been approved. Republicans want a straight spending bill with no add-ons. And you know what? All of this still only keeps the government open until mid-November. Meanwhile, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has canceled votes in the House for the week and sent representatives home to show they won't be able to negotiate. They're not willing to negotiate anything for at least the next week.
There's no reason for the House to come back. We've taken the action. We have passed the bill that would keep the government open, and the Senate Democrats are rejecting it. So once the Senate Democrats reopen the government, we'll come back into town and we'll start doing the people's business. But again, we're waiting for the Senate Democrats.
We see the Speaker telling his House colleagues not to even come to session, that there's no work for the federal government to do, apparently. That's completely unacceptable. And in addition to the need to restore healthcare affordability for people, we need to make sure that any agreement that we reach with Republicans, they will honor.
Now, administration officials said Sunday that if President Trump feels there truly is a stalemate, then cuts to programs important to Democrats would begin, as well as federal worker firings, something that has never happened before in previous shutdowns. So the Senate reconvenes at 3 this afternoon. That first test vote, again, scheduled for 5:30 p.m. And we are already starting to see the impacts here. We know 750,000 workers are being furloughed across the country. We know national parks have had some trouble staying open. FEMA can't issue any flood insurance policies right now, so that can hold up people who need those in order to close on the purchase of a new home. The CDC has ceased communications with the public. And here, right in downtown D.C., the Smithsonian museums have been able to stay open on prior funding, some money that they have in their coffers. At least for this week, they say they got one more week left. If this continues past October 12th, they will have to close to the public.
Melanie Alnwick down there live for us at our team at Fox 5 DC. We appreciate your time on this matter. You take care. Taking once again that live image that we have over at the Capitol building, we do need to step away for a quick commercial break, and we also have this live image of the White House in Washington, D.C. Later on this morning, around 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we are expecting some comments from Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. We'll be right back.
Saving money is now more important than ever for seniors. But if you purchased a $9.95 guaranteed acceptance plan, you could easily find yourself overpaying for very little life insurance coverage. With the $9.95 rate, a 65-year-old male receives less than $900 in coverage. For $10,000 in coverage, he would pay over $110 a month with a 2-year waiting period. Fortunately, with Senior Life Insurance Company, he pays less than $58 a month for $10,000 in protection. There's no waiting period, no medical exam, and he saves over $600 a year by choosing Senior Life. A 65-year-old female saves over $400 a year. Don't overpay for your life insurance. Call now to see how much money you could save with Senior Life. We could help you get cash back from your current overpriced policy. Call now to lock in your coverage and low monthly rate. For your free quote, call now.
Welcome to the Tony Robbins Network. This is your destination for growth, for transformation, and for breakthroughs in every area of your life. You'll find original series here, such as Your Extraordinary Life Playbook. You're not making progress, you're not growing. The Winner's Edge. Every one of us is a fighter. Elevated Minds.
It's okay to feel the pain. What's not okay is the suffering.
Breaking Through. You needed some healing, came to the right place. Get ready to elevate your life here on the Tony Robbins Network.
Meet 3 women who have come to Rome to star in their very own romantic comedy.
I feel like I'm in The Lady and the Tramp. This is a real-life fairy tale.
8:55 on the East Coast, 5:55 over on the West Coast. My name is Carol Lahara, and I'm here to guide you through some of these live images that we continue to get throughout this Monday morning. Taking you out over to Greenbelt, Maryland. Take a look at this. We have a podium there set up, and that poster saying "Free Kilmar." Now, this is a very similar view to what we saw several weeks ago when Kilmar first appeared at a hearing that he needed to attend at the immigration facility down there in Maryland, where he was detained, and now that fight does continue. Later on today, he is supposed to also appear for a hearing. We are awaiting some possible statements from attorneys that are involved in this matter. And we do have a couple of live vantage points from this same scene. I want to take you out to this one as well, as we see that several people have lined up here with signs showing their support for Kilmar Abrego. Going back to some of this reporting courtesy of the Associated Press, most recently they say this: a federal judge has concluded that the Department of Justice's prosecution of Kilmar Abrego Garcia on human smuggling charges may have been an illegal retaliation after he successfully sued the Trump administration over his deportation to El Salvador. The case of Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran national who was a construction worker in Maryland, has become a proxy for the partisan struggle over President Trump's sweeping immigration policy and mass deportation agenda. A U.S. district judge there in charge late Friday did grant a request by lawyers for Abrego Garcia and ordered discovery and an evidentiary hearing in Abrego Garcia's effort to show that the federal human smuggling case against him in Tennessee is illegally retaliatory. I want to lift up the audio just briefly here and see if we can hear anything.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go,
So we just wanted to bring up that audio briefly here. It does appear that this feed is on a bit of a delay. Let's take you out to this other feed here as we're seeing some speakers step up to the podium.
As we begin, I ask you to put your left fist in the air. Mientras comenzamos, te voy a pedir que pongas el puño izquierdo arriba. Y conmigo, recordemos, todos somos Kilmar. Todos somos Kilmar. We are all Kilmar. We are all Kilmar. Todos somos Kilmar. Todos somos Kilmar. Aquí, aquí, ahora, ahora, y siempre. Y siempre. Right here. Right here. Right now. Right now. And always. And always. Muchísimas gracias. My name is Lydia Walther Rodriguez, and I am the Chief of Organizing and Leadership with CASA. Mi nombre es Lydia Walther Rodriguez, y soy la encargada de organizar y liderazgo con CASA. Today we are back again outside the U.S. District Court, rallying alongside community members, faith leaders, and legislators. El día de hoy estamos de nuevo enfrente de la Corte del Distrito de los Estados Unidos. Estamos aquí con miembros de la comunidad, con legisladores, y también estamos aquí con líderes espirituales. We are demanding justice, not just for Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but for the very principles that define democracy. Estamos aquí no solamente demandando justicia para Kilmar Abrego García, sino demandando justicia por la democracia. The principles that include due process, fairness, and the right to defend yourself if you are being accused. Los principios que hablan de poder defenderte, tener tu día en corte si estás siendo acusado. While no decision will be heard in today's hearing, it is a crucial step indeed in the long fight to free Kilmar and to prevent his deportation. Mientras el día de hoy no vamos a tener resultados concretos, la audiencia es significante para asegurar la lucha para liberar a Kilmar y también para prevenir su deportación. And again, this case is not just about one man. It is about the integrity of the U.S. Constitution. Y de nuevo quiero repetir que este caso solamente no se trata de un hombre, sino de nuestro poder de defender nuestra Constitución. We need to continue to raise collective conscience as we continue to witness the inhumane retaliation by our government to a man and his family who are simply demanding due process. Tenemos que continuar a alzar la conciencia colectiva con nuestra gente de lo que estamos siendo testigos en este caso. Estamos viendo la inhumanidad y el tratamiento injusto de terror contra un hombre y su familia por simplemente demandar su día en corte. Thank you. Kilmar's wife, Jennifer, could not be here today, but she wanted to make sure that her voice was heard. La esposa de Kilmar no pudo estar aquí el día de hoy, pero quería asegurarse que su voz sea escuchada. Jennifer shares that since her husband Kilmar was detained on August 25th and once again separated from his children, it has been a very hard time for the family. Jennifer comparte desde que su esposo fue detenido de nuevo el 25 de agosto y separado de nuevo de sus hijos, ha sido un tiempo extraordinariamente difícil para la familia. They worry every day for him, especially with the continued threats by this administration to deport him to another country. Todos los días se preocupan por Kilmar, especialmente porque siguen siendo acusados y amenazados que lo van a deportar a otro país. Jennifer shares that her family's faith in God is what will continue to keep them strong. Jennifer comparte que su fe en Dios es lo que la está manteniendo fuerte al lado de su familia. And she wanted me to close by showing so much appreciation for those of you who are standing here today and those of you who are at home continuing to hear this story. Ella quiere finalizar dándole las gracias a todas las personas que continúan a pastorearse por Kilmar y todas las personas que nos están escuchando en sintonía y siguen hablando de esta historia. You are the keepers of Kilmar's promise. And through your fight and demand for the liberation for all who are detained, justice will prevail. Ustedes son los que continúan la promesa de Kilmar y a través de sus esfuerzos y luchas, justicia va a llegar. Jennifer's words and continued fight are a testament of resilience, hope, and the belief that justice could be a reality if we just keep fighting. Las palabras de Jennifer son un testamento de resistencia, esperanza y un creer que justicia puede llegar si simplemente continuamos a luchar. But her message also underscores a painful truth, pero su mensaje también revela una realidad dolorosa. Families like Kilmar are being torn apart, not because of guilt, but because of racism, charged with acts of systemic retaliation by this administration. Familias como Kilmar continúan a ser separadas, no porque son culpables de algo, pero sino por el racismo y las cargas sistémicas contra nuestra comunidad, por esta administración. The way our government continues to treat Kilmar will define who we are as a nation. La forma que nuestro gobierno continúa a tratar a Kilmar nos va a definir como país. This is why we must never stop fighting. Esta es la razón porque tenemos que continuar a luchar. Because if we ignore these injustices, the next family politically persecuted in this way will be yours. Porque si ignoramos lo que está pasando en este caso y las injusticias que están viviendo, la próxima familia perjudicada políticamente por este gobierno va a ser la tuya. Before we continue this program today, I want to call all of our